interesting one. When I saw this come across my screen, I wanted to kind of freak out for a minute. And I'm gonna let you take the bait first, and then I'll I'll go. Let me get his exact quote here. Go ahead.
I'll be ready for this.
Yeah, I know. He breaks down how the Big Ten has surpassed the SEC in college football, um, in all things. He look, he says you're starting to look at the narrative the SEC has built up over the last few years. In the last year, it started to crumble after rattling off the SEC losses to both Big Ten and Notre Dame in last year's postseason. That include Notre Dame beating Georgia, and then of course the Buckeyes beating Tennessee, and then Alabama losing to Michigan, and back-to-back uh, bowl wins. Obviously the year prior, and then going into this year. Um, and look, this is an interesting take. The SEC in particular, the best program. The reason why this quote's important because I'm going to talk about later on. The SEC in particular and the best programs within the SEC can no longer just stockpile talent and keep them as backups and even third
Hmm.
stringers all the time. But now, rather than sitting as a backup at Alabama, you can go elsewhere and be a starter at other programs and make six figures. And so the talent is just not sitting there. The depth of talent is now dispersing across the country. And what you see is when this happens, it rewards teams that can play quality football at the line of scrimmage and retain talent and get veterans within the organizations. That's what Michigan did. That's what Ohio State did. In part, just kind of the overarching shift of where college football has gone, which allowed the talent to not get too really bogged down in one region. Now all those players are going all over for more opportunities, more starting spots. A lot of interesting takes there.
Yeah.
There are back-to-back defending champions. I'll let you sound off first, and then we can go from there, big guy. I didn't say it, so don't yell at me.
Yeah, the it's backloaded with the good information. The front half is just them trying to give hope to some other conferences. SEC still reigns supreme when it comes to college football. I hear what he's saying, and then giving the stats of the bowl games and the losses by the SEC. One thing about the SEC, some of these bowl games, if you're not playing for the championship, it's not a championship game. Some of these guys are not, playing as hard. So with the ReliaQuest Bowl, that's what they were in, right?
Who? Michigan?
Michigan and Alabama.
Alabama? Yeah, that bowl didn't count. I agree.
Right. So
Yeah.
if you're Alabama, and
Look, to
it's
be
not
to
a
his point
champion.
though, Ohio State. I mean, Tennessee and Georgia did lose, but
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, no, yeah, and I'm gonna get to those. You got
Texas fell short too.
the yeah, the transfer portal and paying players did play a big role in that. But we discussed that with teams that um were fringe teams that had a lot of seniors and juniors on those rosters. Now they're being able to add just a couple pieces here, and that continuity meaning a lot. We're talking, so when you get to a team like Michigan and stuff like that, they're starting to turn on again, but they were backloaded with people that were probably going to be juniors going into seniors, redshirt seniors and stuff like that, and they just sprinkle in a little bit of talent here. But then you give the conference that they play in, you're not playing high end talent all season long. So you take into account of some injuries from some of these SEC schools and all of that, and then you get to the end of the year, and they were able to sprinkle in some talent. All of that's going to settle itself out here now. We had COVID years, we had all kind of things going on, which made it difficult for the top teams to still keep a grasp on these players. But every team didn't need the top player; they just needed a sprinkle here and there. But all that's gonna fizzle out. Michigan, per se, Michigan to me by itself, you still got to develop players. You know what I mean? You still got to develop these players. I think their quarterback was a senior. The first 3 games they played, he threw 6 interceptions. They benched him for a redshirt sophomore. The redshirt sophomore went in there, so then they brought in the true freshman or something like that. So you got to develop these guys, and so there's no way for me. You're saying that this conference is just better now when you look at a team like that who had a senior, and in 3 games he throws 6 interceptions and you bench him for a sophomore. That speaks more louder to me about the program than it is just throwing players everywhere. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Sure.
So I think over time it's going to work itself out. We're kind of in that position right now at Florida because we have a lot of players who stayed in. Now they're up as juniors, seniors coming into this season now. But we did it the opposite way where we're allowing our freshmen to develop, and now we did bring in one or two players from the portal to help the offense, but we're going to be relying on freshmen now to come in and sprinkle and develop. So that way you can keep the ball rolling that way. You can't just keep digging in the portal. That's not a sustainable thing. And I just don't. I understand what he's saying about being able to get those players, but it's going to work itself out towards the end of this thing.
Yeah, so I took a look at it because taking the title or the crown from somebody, always trying to crown the next top conference is kind of just the way this we function as a society as of late. So I pulled up the last, I mean, from 2000 till now, the champions. And when you look at it
We
from
got 9 of them, probably.
it, SEC has 16 of them for the last 25 years.
Yeah, yeah. So
So more
crazy.
than 50%. But that's the easy way of looking at it. So I was trying to like take a step back and say, look, like you throw that number out, sure, that's the easy way. But if you look at kind of from 2000 to 2005, the SEC only had, well, they split one with USC in 2003, but it was Big 12, Big East, Big 10, Pac 10, Pac 10, Big 12, and then Florida won in '06. And that was
Right.
the start of the SEC run because then the SEC went on to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in a row. And then
Mhm.
at that point in my eyes, established dominance. Like that was when the SEC has really became its own. Then the ACC won, Big 10 won, then SEC, ACC, SEC, ACC, then SEC rallied off 4 in a row once again. And now we're seeing Big 10 go back to back. So even if you want to take, again, if you how you look at the last 5 years, okay, well, SEC still has 3 of the last 5.
Right.
Now, if we want to look at a projection, I like his thought process on that because of what the Big Ten done as the last 2 years and the way they won the championship is they, like he said, they were able
Yeah.
to maintain a veteran presence, right? And I say that Penn State is my team for the Big Ten this year that is embodying what
The
those two
same
teams did
model.
last year. Exactly.
Mhm.
And when you look at the Big Ten, the Penn State looks really good. Oregon looks really good. Oregon looks like they're going to be good for quite some time. Ohio State is back in that. I mean, they never really left it, but they're looking there. Michigan is appearing to be going in the right direction. I still think there's a lot of hurdles they have to overcome, right? If USC of the world can get back to what it could be, then yeah,
Yeah.
all of a sudden the Big Ten is in this conversation. But it's the same thing. It goes back to the same conversation of when Kirby goes and wins two. Is it like, hey, is this a dynasty? Is he better than Saban? Like, is he not better, but is he on that path? Like, we want to automatically start doing it. You need a few more, in my opinion, for the Big Ten. But I do believe that the pillars are there for the Big Ten to make
Yeah.
a genuine run. You've changed the championship format, which we don't know who it's going to help as of now. I would argue that in the years past, when there's only 4, was it beneficial more for the SEC with strength of schedule? For sure. We could probably squeeze in 2 more
For
teams
sure.
than other conferences. You're not going to get that way now. You're going to be able to throw in and cast some of these guys in. And yeah, and look, both teams got to play. One's got to travel south, one's got to travel north. And you could have a Tennessee get absolutely walloped at Ohio State, right? So it's opening things up now. He says Notre Dame. Notre Dame doesn't play in any of these conferences. I mean, I would probably tag them more towards the
Yeah, they
ACC.
independent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
as of now, but not a look. It seems egregious at kind of at first glance, and it kind of seems like clickbait. I love Joel Klatt, and I see some of you don't not a fan.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of him. I think he has.
No,
I,
yeah.
I like his takes. I think that he
I
approaches them from a healthy manner. Um,
Yeah.
I do think this one's still a little bit early on, but I like there's
But he
legs
made
there.
yeah.
There's legs there.
He made some valid points. I just I just know that he knows that it's not there yet. But if you can pull any, I mean, you got to do some commentary and you got to pull something to get something. You know what I mean? And given the facts that he laid out, he was able to make an argument for it.
Look, if you look at
But
coaches too, we did an exercise, like a little game on our show yesterday or this morning
yeah,
on Monday on who to bench or
that was
cut.
another thing you said, coaches. Yeah,
Yeah, I said, Lane, if you go to the Big Ten, like we had said, hey, do you bench DeBoer, Kirby, or Sark? And I was like, it kind of feels like it's a no brainer that it's DeBoer. If you go to the Big Ten and you put up um, James Franklin, Dan Lanning, and Ryan Day, that's a conversation. You really don't know. And so when you look at it from
who
that
you go with
perspective,
though?
I
just to
we're gonna have to save it for next Monday. I can't spoil that here. But, we're gonna do it next Monday because it was such a great conversation. I was like, "That is a really fun one."
Yeah.
That's where I also look at a bit the Big Ten. It's like, yeah, the coaching quality right now appears to be in that thing. And Five
I
Adams says
think
Joel Klatt is biased. Look, we're all biased. That's what's hard about this.
yeah.
Like, look, I'm obviously a Florida SEC biased. That doesn't mean that I can't have you know, a nice, healthy approach
My
to a situation. There's still gonna be a bias towards it, but to try to
yeah.
remove yourself and look, if I'm in Klatt's position, I'm gonna look and try to argue for
You have to.
a conference that I support in a
Yeah, you
healthy
have to.
manner.
For sure. No, you have to. That's why and my bias is not just so much I'm a geographical location guy. I just feel like football played in the South is just different.
Sure,
Whether it's Texas or maybe, and if USC can get back on board because they got
they play a
sunshine.
unique
I
kind of
think
ball.
playing in the sun, it just
You think it's just
when
dark
you
up
can
there
play
in
in
the
the
north?
sun year round, it just totally different. Then so
Our
I
skin's a
just
little
think guys,
crustier, it's a little leathier.
yeah, and recruiting. You got guys from Florida. Florida is the number one place for football. The number one place you want to get high school recruits out of. Florida's a hotbed. Georgia's the state is a hotbed. Texas is a hotbed, and these guys come from the weather that's like that. So when it comes into recruiting, um, I think you're going to get the most talent in these regions because it's what guys are familiar with. It's tough to go somewhere when you from Florida, going to the cold, going to a school where it snows or just gloomy looking half of the year. You don't see no palm trees. There's no beach near nowhere near around. Mentally, a lot of guys are not able to go and do that. And give it their all, or it's just a big shock to them. So I feel like any of these schools that are in the South or on the coast has you know,
It's
I
different
just
vibe,
never been.
different feeling.
I just always thought the football played up north was different, and they play each other, so it looks good on TV for a little while until you meet a team that's, you know what I mean. It's always been like that.
I think so. Back in the day, I think that was much more of a factor with the NIL and just the
It changes,
technology.
yeah.
Yeah, I just guys practicing inside more, the ability to travel and go somewhere and train. Like these cats aren't staying in Ohio through year in and year out. So as much as look, I think when you played, that was a factor. That was definitely a part of it. I think that's going away though. I really do. I just think that
I
it's
think
there's
enough
this
money, but for a Florida kid, not even
we
just the
got to get
training,
better at
just
keeping those
living,
kids
just
in the states.
just living,
If
just
we just
yeah.
lock down this quadrant from recruiting and don't let a Jeremiah Smith go to Ohio State, then we're not having this conversation, and that falls on us.
But that's why Ohio has a payer bag like that for a jersey because you going to Ohio is just a different quality of living. Then you're away from your family, so that needs to be accommodated. So I think the SEC is going to always have a hold on college football as long as everybody can pay. I think it's going to continue to be like that, and the most talent is going to always stay in this area.
Look, I think right now, I mean, this year, the Big Ten overall, I think, is more favored to win the championship as of now because I think Ohio
More
State,
pass.
Michigan,
Yeah.
and Penn State and Oregon, they're probably four of your top 10 teams. Maybe not Michigan, but definitely the other ones are three of the top 10 teams. And then Clemson's up there, and then you still have a ton of SEC teams, so I can't really say that. But I would say more highly favorable. I would put the Big Ten as of now. But
I
look,
like Penn State though. I
yeah,
like the way they looked last year. I like the way they played the game.
not
Um,
sold on
I
James, but
think
I think they
I,
went and
I'm
had
I'm
some
on,
great
I'm on
pieces.
you with this one for them this season coming up. I like Penn State.
Yeah, they should be.